Joining us now on the program as we get ready for the Ann Arbor Art Fair, July 20th through the 22nd, across 30 blocks of Ann Arbor from East Ann Street all the way down to Forest Street as well, is Matthew Rucker, a painter who will be at the art fair this year. Matthew, thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on to talk about your art. As I mentioned, you are a painter, but your painting, as with most artists, has a very unique style that you bring to the table. So tell us about your style of painting and also how you got into this form of art.
Well, my style of painting I created, it's called hyperminimalism. It's a combination of hyperrealism and minimalism. So it was kind of a strange evolution that brought me to this current series where I'm trained as a surrealist. That's, I spent my life painting like Salvador Dali, a lot of weird images on a canvas. And eventually, as time went by over a few years, fewer and fewer and fewer things were appearing on my canvases. And then one day I just got down to, there was one thing left on the canvas as I was making new paintings, and then I took away the background. And then I was like, this is kind of getting into an interesting place. And I did a show. I just experimented with a show and it sold out. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm onto something. And I developed it a bit further. It's taken off in a wonderful way. And really, it just comes down to my journey to being the change I want to see in the world. I think the world is it's loud, it's busy, it's chaotic, and my work is is my counter to that. I'm doing everything I can to make the world a kinder, calmer, more joyous, beautiful place.
So how does that manifest in these paintings? Because, as you said, hyperminimalism, the style of painting that you do, combines realism, but also with minimalism. So you're trying to make things then, if I'm breaking this down correctly, trying to make things look very realistic, but also without having an overwhelming amount of detail. So how do you make that work to create these paintings that are hyperminimalistic?
Well, it's a balance of a few things. Composition, of course, is huge. As you can probably see behind me, my paintings are a large area of ambient space and then a single object on the canvas. Usually that object is an animal. Sometimes I'll do something a little bit different, but the vast majority of the time, it's just a single animal. The ones you see behind me are works in progress. They're not quite finished. So like this elephant up here, other side, doesn't have a shadow or anything, but that's a good example there. So the minimalism, of course, comes from just the fact that there's one item on the canvas. That's it. There's one focal point. That's all. The hyperrealism comes in when you really get close. That animal, that image is going to be painted in extraordinarily high detail, like photorealistic detail. And I've always believed if you're going to only paint one thing on a canvas, it's going to take a while for your eye to get to that object. You want to make it worth the journey. And
you can find more of Matthew's art, including some of the paintings you're seeing on the screen at MatthewRucker.com. Please continue, Matthew.
Oh, that's quite right. Every animal I paint is a portrait of somebody I love depicted as an animal. So it's not just here's an animal on a canvas. It goes a lot deeper than that. It's I'm focusing. It's only positivity. I only paint positive and good things. So the whole time I'm painting that animal, I'm focusing on that one individual, an element of their personality, a memory with them, things like that. And so I'm actually like spending time, just one-on-one time with somebody that I care about when I'm working on that painting, and I'm putting all that energy into the painting. And I found that what an artist puts into work comes out of the work with the viewer. That's the hope.
Joining us on the program today is Matthew Rucker, a painter out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, who you'll see this summer, July 20th through the 22nd, at the Ann Arbor Art Fair. 3 art fairs all in one across over 30 blocks of the heart of Ann Arbor here in Lower Michigan. Matthew, on your website, again, MatthewRucker.com is the place to go to look at all of his art and to find more information. It notes down there that you are colorblind, and that's interesting too for a painter who's going into extreme detail, and a lot of times that detail involves color. Especially when you're talking about the variety of different animal life that you're putting into these paintings. So how has your color blindness had an impact on your work, and how is that all, both from your ability to create these works, but also in the outcome of these different paintings?
Well, it certainly provides a bevy of challenges, but also has some benefits. So I see about 1% of color. I see about 1% of what a person with normal color vision would see. So it's rather limited. I do see color. My wife tells me that I think I see a lot more color than I actually do. But I do see blue, red, yellow in a limited quantity. And she is my color vision when it's necessary. As you can see, like elephant and the beta fish behind me, those are just, they're black and white often. I paint black and white animals, but when something does require color, then my wife helps me when I mix my palette, so I can kind of get it right and not have a green fox. It's really actually informed my art in a lot of ways, because I've had to make exceptions and changes and adjustments and ways to adapt to use my color blindness in a good way. And some of those things include, like, my backgrounds, for example. They're a very subtle gradation, a very subtle ombre from light to dark. And that's difficult to do. And I have, 30 years practice doing that. But more than that, because I'm colorblind, my eyes see things differently than a person with normal color vision. Where my cones are deficient in seeing color, my rods overcompensate in seeing things like detail, gradation, texture, etc. So I can actually see the gradation much better than someone with normal color vision. So it actually assists my work in a way that someone who has normal color vision can't really do what I do, because they can't see it the way I see it. And I also use very strange and interesting colors that a lot of artists wouldn't use too.
More information on Matthew's art can be found on MatthewRucker.com. You can also learn more about the Ann Arbor Art Fair, including where Matthew and other artists will be placed at the fair, by visiting theAnnArborArtFair.com. That's theAnnArborArtFair.com. And of course, the art fair happening this July 20th through the 22nd. That's a Thursday through a Saturday. Thursday and Friday, July 20th and 21st, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday, the 22nd, 10 a.m. until 8 p.m., featuring artists from all across the U.S. and around the Midwest and around the world as well. Ann Arbor Art Fair can be found theAnnArborArtFair.com. Joining us today is one of the artists at this year's art fair, Matthew Rucker, a painter out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, coming into town. And you talked about the motivation behind your style of painting and the art that you're creating, but tell us about your journey to turning art into a career. Where did that begin for you?
Well, that began when I was little. My grandfather was an artist. He was a sculptor, and he saw something artistic in me very, very early, and he encouraged that a lot. And luckily, I had very supportive parents. My mother is an artist as well, musician, singer, etc. And both my parents encouraged and allowed and helped me become an artist. Sent me to art school when I was, in college. And, so I'd always been doing it. And it was when I left college that I decided I wanted to turn this into a career. This is what I need to do for a living. And years and years and years of just hard work and study and trying to, do the right things and play the right games. And eventually I got there, and I've been a full-time artist for about 20 years now. And everything is wonderful. Love it.
And as a traveling artist too, as someone that goes to art shows both for my professional life and also just for my own personal appreciation of art, one of my favorite things about going to an art show is having these sort of communications with artists, learning their stories and understanding their motivations behind some of these pieces. This is one of the reasons that we do partner with the Ann Arbor Art Fair leading up to the art fair and having artists on each and every week to talk about their craft and talk about what they're bringing to Ann Arbor in late July. For an artist like you, what is the most inspiring part of traveling with your art and meeting art lovers, both in your area of the world, in the Minneapolis area, and all throughout the country as well?
Well, it's just what you said. It's just getting to have great conversations with great people. I get to meet people all over the country, have fantastic conversations. I get to learn new communities, new cities. I love finding new food, new restaurants. That's a big part of the fun of traveling. But yeah, it's just really getting to meet people all over the place and have great conversations with good people, about art, about their community. Anything goes.
And you'll be at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair, again, July 20th through the 22nd. You can find Matthew's art there. More information on the art fair at theannarborartfair.com, and preview some of Matthew's art by visiting MatthewRucker.com for more information as well. And Matthew, have you been to the Ann Arbor Art Fair before? Have you showcased your art there before?
I have. I've been there since 2019.
So that this will then be your fourth year showing there, 2019 through this year in 2023. What about Ann Arbor makes you want to return again for another year after being there since 2019?
Well, again, it's a great community. It's a great town. It's a really fantastic art fair that's well run, well organized. It brings in a really great quality of clientele. You've got amazing people from the Ann Arbor area that come in, and then people who come in from all over the country for this show because it's so big and such a good show. A lot of people come in from all over the place, and so fantastic conversations with people from all over the place. Really good food. I love some of the restaurants out there, and it's a fun show to do and a fun town to be in.
More information on the Ann Arbor Art Fair can be found on its website, theannarborartfair.com. Friday and Saturday it'll be, but also Thursday, July 20th, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's the same time period on Friday, July 21st. Saturday, July 22nd, the final day of the Ann Arbor Art Fair, 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. It features 3 different art fairs: the original Street Art Fair, the State Street Art Fair, and the Summer Art Fair across 30 blocks in Ann Arbor. More information on Matthew's art can be found at MatthewRucker.com. Matthew Rucker, a painter who will be at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair once again, as he has been since 2019, joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. We've seen some of your art on your website at MatthewRucker.com throughout this interview already, but what are some of the different pieces that you're planning to feature at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair?
Oh, I've got a bunch of new stuff coming this year. It's going to be fun. Several pieces I've done just for this show. I've got a new elephant, a new fox, new swan. Some of the I don't want to say standard images that I do, because there are some animals that I like to paint over and over, but there's some. I've got big cats for the first time ever. I haven't shown any of those publicly before, and I've got everything from small pieces, my smallest being like 11 by 14, all the way up to some really, really big ones. So it's going to be quite a variety. And I'm bringing a bunch of brand new prints this year, something for everybody, and including prints of the newest pieces that I have available. Some of the new paintings the originals will be up as well.
More information on all of Matthew's art can be found on MatthewRucker.com. You can also see him at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair, July 20th through the 22nd, on over 30 blocks of Ann Arbor. 3 different art fairs, hundreds of different kinds of art, and thousands of artists from all across Michigan, the Midwest, and around the country coming into Ann Arbor. More information and ways that you can get involved at theannarborartfair.com. And of course, again, to keep up to date with all of Matthew's art, MatthewRucker.com. Just a few more minutes with you, Matthew, before we'll have to wrap things up for today. Anything else you'd like us to know about your art or about your appearance at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair?
Oh, I'm just looking forward to the show. It's like I said, it's a great show, and I think it's this one's going to be really fun with the new work I'll have and getting to see the new work of all the other artists there at the art fair. Get to eat at some of my favorite restaurants, and yeah.
You can join in on all the fun along with Matthew and thousands of other artists of all different disciplines by visiting theannarborartfair.com or joining him at this year's art fair Thursday, July 20th through Saturday, July 22nd. More information on theannarborartfair.com. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us.
Tyler, it was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much.